Hi, I'm Femi OK. On today's bonus edition of The Stream, an exclusive interview with Farah Baker, a Palestinian social media activist who lives in Gaza. Our connection was interrupted by Israeli airstrikes. Stand by for your questions about the coronavirus in India, and we revisit a passionate debate about COVID vaccine inequality.
Look, we need the US to act immediately. The short-term solution, give us the doses you don't want. You don't like AstraZeneca, give it to us. We'll take it, right? The long-term solution, fund factories. Near-term solution, force companies you funded to share their technology with manufacturers who can pick it up and use it. You know, this is not funny any longer. This is sick. What's happening in India is waiting to happen to every unvaccinated society, whether it's in sub-Saharan Africa or Southeast Asia. And if we don't act, we have to explain that to our children and our grandchildren. And I'd love to see what they have to say.
That was Achal Prabhala, a public health activist based in Bangalore, getting an enthusiastic round of applause from Dr. Ayo Ade Alakija, co-chair of the African Union Vaccine Delivery Alliance. Also on the panel, Dr. Krishna Uday Akama from Duke University. He's not in favour of waiving COVID vaccine patents. Have a listen.
We have to get to a more distributed model of vaccine manufacturing globally. India has traditionally been the workhorse of manufacturing, and we saw that that model isn't fit for purpose in the midst of a pandemic. Right now, India is manufacturing 70 to 80 million doses of vaccine a month, which isn't enough just to meet domestic needs, much less the needs of the rest of the world. So we've got to look at other parts of Asia, Africa, Latin America especially, to invest now in building up capacity, even if it takes 6 to 12 to 18 months to come online. My worry about the IP waivers is that right now it's a distraction. In the long term, I think it's a positive indication that the U.S. is taking this very seriously, wants to play a leadership role, and is willing to invest and partner with others around the world. Unfortunately, an IP waiver, even if granted today, wouldn't increase the amount of money and wouldn't increase the number of doses in the next 3 to 6 months. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I just hope we don't get distracted by that and forget to do all the other urgent things that are still needed.
Yeah, Yodi, jump in, and then Achal
Absolutely.
next.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, I have to say, absolutely disagree that vaccine waivers are a distraction right now. I think the distraction is trying to move us away from vaccine waivers, because what vaccine waivers do in this moment is that it shows that we're grabbing the opportunity within this crisis with both hands. We are at a disadvantage in the low and middle income countries of the world because, for instance, let me use Africa. We use 25% of the world's vaccines produced globally in any given year. We produce 1% of those vaccines. 99% we import. We have seen that when a crisis like this comes, you said that the vaccine manufacturing is not fit for purpose. I would argue that the entire global health infrastructure that we have at the moment is shown not to be fit for purpose. It isn't just delivering for you in the US, it isn't delivering for the UK, it isn't delivering for India, and it isn't delivering for Africa. Yes, it is not a quick fix. Waivers are not a quick fix in this moment right now, but waivers, if we get them in place and if we get the technology transfer and we get the know-how put in place, then what it will show is that this virus isn't going away. We've got another year, sadly, another 2 years perhaps. So we can prepare. It's about preparedness. It's about being ready for that next thing that is coming our way. So I disagree that vaccines are waivers are a distraction. I think they are absolutely critical. And I think the signal that has been made by the US is very welcome. And we call for the rest of the world to do the same.
I think it's crucial that we vaccinate as much of the world as possible, as quickly as we can. But I don't think that patents are really the bottleneck. Moderna has opened up theirs, and there haven't been any takers yet. That's because the real bottlenecks are expertise, supplies of key ingredients, a lot of technology that's very hard to replicate if you haven't done it yourself. So it's already scaling up in North America, in Europe, in India, in China. I think that's the place to put the effort, in the biggest scale factories, which are already being enlisted.
I'm bursting with information to give you. Yeah. So this is something that's been repeated, and you'll hear this a lot. If you open up Foreign Affairs, you'll see an article today on this. If you open up the Wall Street Journal, you'll see an article by a board member of Pfizer saying this is vaccines are complex. Now, this is the sort of phrase that is now giving me hives, actually. I mean, it literally makes me break out into hives, right? Absolutely. And so I apologize for being so excited, but I'm in the middle of hell, and I really, it's become so personal now that I can't be rational about this. But let me just give you this example. So Moderna said that they would not enforce their patents on their vaccine during the pandemic. But guess what? Moderna doesn't actually own all their patents. So one of the patents in the Moderna vaccine is owned by the National Institutes of Health.
NIH.
It hasn't even licensed it by the NIH in the United States. Another patent was developed at the University of Pennsylvania, licensed to a biotech company who then further licensed it to Moderna and to Pfizer. Moderna cannot give away its patents even if it wanted to. I'm sorry to say. So the only way that this is possible is by a blanket waiver that suspends pharmaceutical monopolies in intellectual property in the pandemic in order to get that clutch of intellectual property rights around this vaccine. Otherwise, you're going to go one by one, case by case, and my God, if you tried that the legal way, you would be spending the next couple of years trying to untangle that mess, right? It is absurd. But the second point I want to make is that Derek Lowe is talking about the mRNA technology, which is a revolutionary platform that Pfizer and Moderna use with great success. It's had great results so far. But you know what the interesting thing about it is? Their story is that because it's a new technology, it's more complex and no one can make it. I've been in conversation, and we wrote a piece about this in The Atlantic last week with my colleague Chelsea Clinton, where we talked about the capacity that exists. The mRNA vaccines do not use biology. They don't grow viruses. So because they're a chemical process, guess what? They're easier to make. And because of that, guess what? There are potentially 250 plus companies in India who make injectable pharmaceuticals, who have manufacturing units that are perfectly capable of attempting to make an mRNA vaccine and possibly succeeding. No one's ever done it before, but this is what there is.
It's guests like Achal that make me excited about coming to work every day, and the live conversation that the stream has with viewers during the show. When the team noticed how many questions you had about the COVID crisis in India, we put together an episode to answer them. Anita Gosho wanted to know about the black fungus infection that's being seen in COVID-19 patients in India. Here's Dr. Kaka explaining what it is.
In black fungus, we are seeing a case in which people, they present with mucormycosis. That's the name of the disease that has been termed as black fungus. So patients who are on steroids, or patients who are immunocompromised, or say they are diabetic and on steroids. So these are the kind of patients who are more susceptible to superadded infections, which may be bacterial infections, which may be fungal infections. So this is something that's going around in Maharashtra and in places where we saw the second wave rise early. Even in Delhi, we're seeing a few cases. People are coming up with pain in around their eye region, around their orbits, in the forehead. So these are the patients who are treated with amphotericin B and medicines which are antifungal medicines, and who are more susceptible, patients who are immunocompromised, patients who are diabetics. So these are the kind of patients who need to be very careful with the amount of steroids they're taking, when they start with steroids and when they stop the steroids. A lot of people I know who are taking steroids for mild disease. This is something that's not recommended anywhere. People are just popping steroids like it's candy. This is something that's not recommended anywhere in the world, and I would suggest anybody who's watching this video to not take steroids if it's not indicated by your doctor or somebody who's actually treating your case. Do not start steroids on your own. Always consult a doctor.
So what I'm showing here on my screen is a tweet, and it's also on your Instagram post about what black fungus is, Dr. Sewing, and then people, like your ideas, and exactly echoing Dr. Kaka about when you should use steroids, when you shouldn't, and the complications that happen from that and the cause of black fungus. So that is there. So you can go to Dr. Arvinder Singh Sewing's Instagram or also his Twitter, and you'll find out that information there. It is potentially deadly. This is from Sadhanshu, and Sadhanshu says, I really want to ask about the arrogance of our Prime Minister. It has destroyed us. There's a lot of complaining on the YouTube comments about Prime Minister Modi because of the way he has handled this entire situation with a second wave in India. As a reporter, how is that being played out in India?
Yeah, I'll absolutely answer this. There's good reason perhaps why the doctors may not be able to, but they need to do their job. We have a prime minister. This is the second term that he's the prime minister, and he's won with an overwhelming majority. So he's an important man. And I have wondered as a reporter watching several broadcasts that he has made to the nation, why on any of these broadcasts he wouldn't have used that amazing time that he has with a whole country wrapped around his finger, why he didn't use that time more effectively to just tell us the kind of things that we need to tell us. You know, he's a prime minister who speaks in Hindi. Hindi is a language that's spoken by a large majority of this country. Just speak to people in the language they understand. You know, there's so much of awe and adulation for this prime minister. Just tell people the kind of things they need to hear. This is also a government that likes to brag. And as a journalist closely tracking statements from this government, watching their press releases, they have bragged. But, you know, the evidence right now does not allow for any more bragging. And, you know, my sense is, though, that, and I tweeted, I took a risk and I tweeted this some time ago. I said, if there's an election today, this government will still win again. I do believe that because there are a number of reasons why there is love for this government and this prime minister. But, you know, I think everybody, whether you support this government or you don't, whether you have had your business prosper or you haven't, everybody has lost someone this pandemic, and that will impact at some level the next time we go to vote.
So we have so many questions on our YouTube comment section. Thank you, everybody, for taking part in this program. It really shows how much the information is needed, and our experts have done an excellent job. One of the things they haven't done, though, is they're taking care of you. I'm wondering who's taking care of them. Dr. Kaka, how are medical professionals doing? How are they coping? The scenes that we've seen in the last few weeks are excruciating. How is your mental health? How are your colleagues' mental health?
Well, I know a lot of people around me who are on antidepressants right now, who are taking anti-anxiety tablets, who are on therapy right now. A lot of my colleagues, they just want to resign. They just want to get out of medicine as a career as a whole. We are hanging by a thread. We're all burnt out. We're overworked, and it's really hard to put into words how you know, young doctors, interns, junior residents, senior residents, they've put in their whole during this last one whole year. And even now, the pandemic doesn't seem to end. We're just witnessing so much misery, we're witnessing so much deaths. We were never prepared for this, never prepared for this.
Calm now. Don't you go to work every morning? Why do you go to work? Why do you go to work?
I don't know, but it's just...
You go to work because you still have that zeal inside you to save lives. I think that is what is driving us. So while what you said is absolutely true, we are all at the end of our tether. We are all, obviously, we want out of this. But I think that the morale and the spirit of the healthcare workers is still pretty high. And, you know, they may be suffering on the personal front, but on the professional front, I don't think there's any let up at all. Everybody has risen to the occasion. I think partly because we are emboldened by the fact that we are all vaccinated, or most of us are. You know, for example, I had my second bout of COVID starting about 3.5 weeks ago.
Oh my
I had
goodness.
symptoms for about I had symptoms for about 5 days, but luckily after that I was okay. And through the 15 days that I was isolated, I was doing about 20 to 25 consults.
A senior doctor encouraging a young doctor during a global pandemic. We had so many reactions to that show. On YouTube, Doug Hunt. Watching Dr. Kaka and Dr Sewing was one of the most moving things I have seen in ages. These people are nothing short of heroes. JT responds, yeah, that's true. You never catch things like this on the news. That would have been a cheesy scene if it were in a movie. Now, because this is a bonus edition of the stream, I can take you behind the scenes and show you moments that have never been seen on TV until now. After the Ask Us Anything About COVID-19 in India episode, the guests and I still have plenty to talk about. This is what happened after the show.
At our hospital, people who test positive for COVID among the healthcare workers who are asymptomatic have been assigned to the COVID wards. So they are COVID positive healthcare workers who are not symptomatic, who are actually working and taking care of COVID patients.
We're doing good, we're doing fine, but yeah, it's just every day that, you know, someone or the other is having a breakdown, and somebody is infected and they're on off, and we're doing double duties, we're doing double shifts.
I'm just wondering, Anu, for you as a journalist, we train ourselves to be able to tell the story, whatever the story is, but at what point did it get to you?
I don't know at what point it's gotten to me, but I think I would say that, you know, to your specific question regarding how my mental health is, or how, you know, some of my colleagues are doing, we're not doing well at all. And it's not okay. And I wish there was more, you know, support that we could get, but there is no break. And, you know, a lot of therapists or people concerned about mental health are talking about how, you know, you need to take a break from the news, limit your social media usage, limit your news consumption. And for me, you know, there's been no blinking. I haven't been able to blink for a year, and now into my second year running, you know, so this is not healthy, and it's not okay. And we should not have to be in this state where we, you know, as a country, we have to be vigilant 24/7 because, you know, our governments have dropped the ball and, you know, have abdicated their responsibilities. So it's not okay for health workers to be going through this, or for journalists to be going through this.
We'll continue to bring you the COVID story in India and around the world, and make sure that your questions are answered right here on the stream. One of the biggest stories we've been covering at Al Jazeera this week is Israel's bombardment of the besieged Gaza Strip after weeks of violence in occupied East Jerusalem. On Monday, I wanted a personal take on the headlines, so I spoke to social media activist Farah Baker in Gaza on Instagram Live. Well, I tried to, but her connection kept on dropping. When it finally stabilised, Farah explained what the problem was.
Actually, because of the continuous shelling and Israeli warplanes and the drones, so I think that they are interrupting the connection. So this all started, as I told you, as Israelis are attacking Al-Aqsa Mosque with settlers, and the soldiers are defending settlers, and they are attacking worshippers in the holiest month of Ramadan and the holiest days. So we people in Gaza couldn't stand still. We tried to stand with them on social media by tweeting and using hashtags. And today, the Palestinian resistance threatened Israel as if they don't leave the Israeli forces and settlers, if they don't leave Al-Aqsa Mosque by 6 p.m., they are going to fire to Israel. And this is what happened. And absolutely, Israel shot back and heavy shelling, and 27 people died in Gaza today while they were preparing for iftar and shopping for Eid.
You are very active online in social media, so when you see the hashtag Sheikh Jarrah, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to activists online?
Actually, there is nothing to do. I just keep shedding tears, and my heart breaks for everything that we see for them. And although we use hashtags and everything, but the point is that I still don't understand how can some people, and especially Arab countries, like running toward to normalize with Israel. I think that this is so inhumane and illogical. I don't understand how can they do this. I think that the people don't have to be pro-Palestinians to stand with Palestinians. They have to be humans only.
The air raids that were taking place during my conversation with Farah continued throughout the week. This is video of Hanadi Tower collapsing after it was hit by Israeli fighter jets. When we showed the footage on the air, stream guest Noor O'Day paused for a moment mid-sentence.
This is an area that has been battered continuously for over 14 years. Psychologically, what we're talking about is a population that is trapped with nowhere to go. Oh, you know, you're showing a building that houses a lot of our memories as journalists in Gaza. It housed many media offices, including the AFP and Reuters, I think, at one point, or AP. But anyways, so when there is talk about, you know, more or maybe ground troops in Gaza, we know what that means. We know that now that the death toll will go dramatically higher. Now the pain will increase more. And now the the attempt to even reconstruct the pieces, put the pieces back together in Gaza will be all the much more difficult. And to know that this is done for political expediency just makes it all the more difficult, to be honest with you, to swallow, given all this whataboutism that we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to understand the situation today, we have to look at sort of how we got to this point in terms of some of the shifts in Israeli politics. And, I absolutely agree with Hakai on the fact that this seems like a very sort of deliberate and calculated process that led us to this point. Even before the original court date for the Sheikh Jarrah families, the Israeli authorities had several opportunities to de-escalate the situation in Jerusalem and chose time and again the path of escalation and further confrontation with people, closing off public space, shutting off the speakers in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, closing access to the Damascus Gate, and ultimately culminating in attacks within the Al-Aqsa Mosque itself. An enraging sight to people all over the world. And I think to understand how we got to this moment, you also have to see the dramatic and increased shift in Israeli politics to the far right. Today, Israeli politics is dominated by right-wing ideologues to an extent that we have never seen before. Really, today in the Knesset, the vast majority of the Knesset seats are held by right-wing ideologues. The choices today are between, the Likud party, Likud light, Likud extra, Likud ultra. It's all various flavors of the same right-wing ideology. This has come to dominate Israeli politics, and we have kahanists today that are within the Israeli Knesset. And one thing we should keep in mind about Benjamin Netanyahu, he is perhaps unique among Israeli politicians of his stature in his ability to utilize communal violence and to motivate activists into taking extreme measures when his political prospects are in jeopardy. And anybody who watched the role that he played prior to the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin in the 1990s knows exactly what he is capable of. So when you ask about the Biden administration, look, Israeli politics has moved in this direction within the context of complete and total impunity because of American policy and protection. When we have sent the message time and again to the Israelis that the more aggressive you get, the more belligerent you get to Palestinians, we're going to continue to reward you with our support and with our cover and with our tax dollars. We've incentivized a race to the right. And that's exactly what happened. The United States has a great degree of complicity in the monster that's been created today. And it's only getting uglier.
Yeah, I have less than a minute, but Biden's got, about 3.5 years to address that. Do you see a change of course in the way the U.S. deals with Israel?
I think there is change that you're starting to hear in conversations about this that's increasingly coming into, the spaces where elected officials exist, but it's not yet with the administration. That said, they may not be in a position to ignore this, particularly as things get more and more violent and ugly, and more people are calling on them to recognize their role in enabling it.
Thank you.
Public opinion in the U.S. is shifting on this, including within Jewish communities. So I think that will also hopefully play a role in getting the administration on board to pushing for active change.
And that's our show for today. I will leave you with images of Gaza from this past week. Thanks for watching. See you next time.